video game demos, the appendix of gaming, and one of the few throwbacks from yesteryear we still have with us today. However, over the intervening decades, the sole purpose of a demo has always been to give the player a small slice of the game, enough into enticing them into buying the full product. However, even a simpler concept as this was too complex for some publishers, who managed to arse up such a basic notion and gave them the full game, totally for free. So this episode, we take a look at these inductive integrations, these plenary productions, and these integral inductions. As I say, but hello you. I'm Guru Larry, and I welcome you to Fact Hunt. 5 video game demos that accidentally contained the full game. As always, we'll start the episode with the most recent and well-known demo that accidentally contained the full game. Sega's Yakuza 6 for the PS4. The closest you'll ever get to joining the mafia in video gaming without having to buy a Gizmondo. Now, upon its release in 2018, gamers were already suspicious that the demo may contain the full game, mainly thanks to the hefty file size the download commanded. But being a modern game, it was obviously impossible to access. Or so it would appear. Nope. The silliest part of this error was you didn't need to pull off a glitch or cheat to play the rest of the game. Sega did such a lousy job at locking out progression after the first chapter that simply playing the game normally accessed you the full product. It was literally the full game, hands down. Needless to say, Sega were rather embarrassed they had accidentally just given everyone a free copy of their new game, so promptly pulled the title from the PSN store, issuing an update patch for anyone who had downloaded it already to properly lock away the rest of the game once and for all. Well, to anyone foolish enough to accept the update patch anyway. Okay, I may have mentioned this one in a previous episode, but this entry is notable for being one of, if not the first ever console demo. So, teething problems aside, it comes to no surprise that they managed to completely arse it up. Enter Keio Flying Squadron, JVC's wacky cute-em-up, starring a 19th century alien dragon-riding key-stealing bunny girl trying to save the world from a 3,000-year-old raccoon with a PhD. So, with such a bizarre premise like that, you're obviously going to need a way to convince the punters into buying the thing. So, JVC dutifully slapped a demo of it onto the cover of the 3rd issue of Sega Pro CD. However, this demo lark was kinda new to the publisher. Rather than going to the length and expense of reprogramming an all-new version of the game, they just stuck the full version on the disc, then added a little extra code to reset the game after the first level. The rest of the game forever locked out, with no one ever aware it was even there. Well, it would have been that way if someone at JVC also remembered to disable the level select cheat in the game. And by simply entering the code right, left, down, up, right on the menu screen, a number will suddenly appear at the top. Choose to start the game from level 2, and hey presto, you've unlocked the entire game, and all for the price of a magazine. Did Sega Pro CD know of this foobar? Well, they never printed a cheat code in their magazine, so let's leave it at that. However, claiming the disc was the biggest ever playable Mega CD demo on the cover probably didn't exactly help their situation. So, with the full version skyrocketing in price today, often going for over £200 on eBay, looking for the demo version of the game is a more cost-effective way to legally play the game. which itself has also shot up in price, quite possibly due to my last video. So, yeah, sorry about that. Capcom's Resident Evil with dinosaurs has never really achieved the same affection its living impaired brother has, possibly as Capcom kept reinventing the franchise into oblivion. I mean, dinosaurs in space with the third entry? The hell were you thinking, Capcom? However, when it came to the second entry, Capcom attempted to veer away from its Resident Evil-esque origins by making a more arcadey, action-based game with Dino Crisis 2. So, to show the gaming world they had reinvented the title, offered a 45-minute playable demo of the entire game. Now, in all fairness, Capcom were fully aware the full game was on the disc already. It was the main selling point even, so consider it more a time trial of the game rather than a demo. In fact, so much of the game was there, you could even save your progression to carry on when you had bought the full version. However, what the Big C weren't banking on was the existence of those pesky Game Shark cheat devices. While they're normally used to give the player infinite health or money, etc., some unscrupulous fellow managed to work out the code to disable the countdown clock in the demo, effectively turning it into the full game. The coolest thing about this cheat, however, is that the Dino Crisis 2 demo disc is actually based on an earlier build of the game, so hardcore fans can get a kick out of this playing a considerably different version of what was finally released. Needless to say, Capcom weren't too impressed when they learned of this discovery, and thanks to being so large a publisher, most magazines decided not to publish the code in fear of being blacklisted. However, Capcom learned their lesson and have never released a time trial since. But dinosaurs in space. Still can't get that out of my head. Hello you. If you're enjoying Fact Hunt, why not subscribe to be first to see the latest episodes? And if you already are subbed, click that bell and choose all to make sure you're always informed. While its prequel and sequel never get a look in, Robocod has been re-released more times on consoles than a copy of Skyrim glued to a homing pigeon's arse. God knows who keeps buying the blooming thing, but it's been constantly ported to successive console generations, even as recently as the Nintendo Switch. But despite Robocod's tsunami of releases, the platforming adventure of gaming's favourite Christmas-saving double-agent cyborg goldfish first appeared on the Commodore Amiga and Atari ST. And, as with nearly all AAA home computer games of the time, it meant the inevitable magazine cover demo disc to lure in those punters. Unfortunately, the publisher Millennium were more generous with their teaser benevolence than they had anticipated. Literally. And either out of incompetence or laziness, put the entire game on the disc. Which, as with Keio Flying Squadron previously, is easily unlocked thanks to them forgetting to remove the blooming cheat code again. At the beginning of the game, jump onto this roof here and collect the items there in the following order. Cake, hammer, earth, apple, tap. The first letters of which spell the word cheat. Then simply walk left instead of right on the very first level, and hey presto, you've unlocked the entire game and become invincible. However, the most hilarious part of this entry is Robocod's demo was built on a beta version of the game, one where they hadn't actually decided on the number of levels in the final release. So, ironically, using the cheat code on the demo gave you more levels than had you forked out the full price for a retail version. Now, the ending is missing from this unfinished version of the game. However, considering it's only 10 seconds long, you're not exactly missing much anyway. But whoever said cheats never prosper? Our final entry today is not only a demo that accidentally contains the full game, but said demo is also a hidden Easter egg in a completely unrelated title. Spyro Year of the Dragon was the third outing of everyone's favourite chibi periwinkle Wyvern, who was out to rescue several stolen dragon eggs from the evil sorceress. I suppose they were running out of ideas by the threequel. But hidden within Year of the Dragon is a secret playable 4 minigame demo of the Mario Party bandwagon jumper, Crash Bash. To get to the hidden demo, all you have to do is be on Spyro's title screen and hold down L1, R2 and square all at the same time. The screen will then go blank and start to load up the demo. So, all fine and dandy so far. This cheat was printed in a few magazines at the time, so perfectly legitimate. However, the demo itself contained a debug menu that essentially gave you the full game. To access this, simply go to the main menu of Crash Bash and enter the rather convoluted left right, left right right, left right right right, left right 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 right, left right 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 right. Then simply start the game normally and press pause. If you look at the bottom of the list, there's an extra menu that allows you to not only access every level in the full game, but also completely break it. Like change all the game's rules, give you invincibility, make the opponents unable to move, and mess around with the game's internal settings in general. Pretty cool. Now hang on, why on earth would someone put a completely game-breaking debug menu in a simple demo? Well, that's the thing. It was never a demo to begin with. What was actually contained on Spyro 3's disc was a beta development copy of Crash Bash. Developers would often add a debug menu to not only help them quickly root out specific bugs in the game, but when sent out to magazines to review, save the poor journalists from having to get good at the game to see everything it had to offer. Okay, that explains what it is. What's it doing on a copy of Spyro 3 then, I hear you ask? Put it simply, development time. Spyro 3 was released in October 2000, and Crash Bash wouldn't be released until a month after that. So to meet another game's deadline, some bright spark at the developer Eurocom decided to just nerf the beta version of the game and stick that on the disc instead to save time. They just forgot about the code to access the debug menu. So, thanks to some absent-minded coder wanting to cut a few corners to save time, we have one of the most awesome video game demos ever made. Thank you, you amazing, anonymous, and slightly lazy techie. Hello you, thanks ever so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to be first to see future Fact Hunt episodes. Click on the bell if you already are to make sure you're notified, and be sure to check out my other episodes. And if you want to be super awesome, check out my Patreon. But thanks again for watching, and I'll be seeing you next time. Ta-ra for now.